So I do want to start out, like, we were sitting here, like, getting ready to put on the TV. I push stream, we both go.
And we're live.
And we're live, and we're ready to go. Good morning, all of our internet friends. Welcome to the Medicare Cafe. We are currently in the pre-chat. What does pre-chat mean? It means that we got started early to get on and answer questions for you. Is your question something about Medicare? Is it something about the topic for today? Or is it, what did we have for breakfast? So today is your host. My name's Olivia Richardson.
And I'm Clayton Clemens.
So Carrie is out. She's actually at the beach today with her family. That's very
so
nice. That's so nice. We're so supportive of her. Just so nice. Clayton, before we get, again, if you do want to ask us any questions or communicate with us whatsoever, we do not answer to carrier pigeons because birds are really scary. I have a story
They're
about
not real,
that.
but anyway.
You don't think, let's get into that for a second, but you can either text us at this number. That is my direct number. I'm pulling it up right now. That is my direct number. So you can text, I'll read it here, or you can message us on the little machine, the YouTube machine, and we will answer you there as well.
We did a trophy dollar last week on that. We never checked.
A trophy dollar on what?
To see what side the box was
Oh,
on.
it did do a trophy dollar on that. And what side did I say?
I don't remember. We'll have to go back to the tape.
The tape? How old are you?
Recorded. It's a thing.
Tape?
I'm going to leave.
I still say tape all the time. But, like, I forget that you're so much older than me.
We're literally 1 year different. Anyway.
So, Clayton.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about this birds aren't real thing. The people you need to know.
Um,
And again, like, if you are, like, watching the recorded version of this, and you're like, this is not what I came here for. I came here to learn more about scope of appointments. Just fast forward, like, 2 minutes, and you should be good. But right now, we're going to learn the conspiracy theory about how birds aren't real.
Okay, it's not a conspiracy theory.
I hate
it's a
that
real
I'm
thing.
giving you this platform.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy about it. Okay.
The people need to know.
So, birds, they might feel real, but you have to ask yourself when the first time you saw a baby pigeon was. Do you remember?
A baby pigeon?
Yeah, a baby pigeon.
I don't know that I've ever seen.
Exactly, because they're not real.
Okay. So these creatures flying around in the sky.
Yep. They're actually drones.
Those are drones.
Yes.
And who's paying these drones and who's reporting the drones? Like, tell me
I can't say it on a recorded thing that's going on the internet.
something that's being taped.
Yeah, but it's being taped. Dang it. But let's just say they are.
They. Is it the Illuminati?
Yeah, the Illuminati and the government.
The Illuminati. So there are no such thing as real birds.
Mm-mm.
They are drones.
All drones.
But, like,
Fly south to get their batteries recharged.
fly south to get their batteries recharged.
Yep. That's where they go.
So, like, cavemen and, like, all, like, the older depictions of, like, birds, those have always been drones.
No, they swapped them.
When? When did they swap them?
Somewhere in the 70s.
The 70s?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, in the 70s, and why did they swap out? What did they do with all the birds?
You don't want to know.
Oh, my God. Is it, like, Chernobyl thing?
Yeah,
Like-
pretty much. It was bad. That's all I can say about it.
Nobody has comments on this.
No one should.
Everybody is on board with Clayton that says this seems like a sound mind person here to teach me about Medicare stuff.
For sure. Check out Reddit for any more information.
Don't ever check out Reddit. First of all, don't ever do that. Well,
Caitlin won't let me wear my hat anymore.
your tinfoil hat.
That one and my birds aren't real hat.
And the thing is, like, I've known this about you for a while.
Mhm.
Do you actually believe?
No.
Okay.
Okay. That's the thing I should say before we start talking about real stuff. Is like, I just love the idea of conspiracy theories. They're glorious to me.
Yes.
And random conspiracy theories, rabbit holes are even better.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm back in. That's
Like-
another podcast we're going to do.
For
A
sure,
conspiracy theory podcast. Welcome, everybody. And if you guys were like, what did I just log on to? I also shared that. What did I just sign up for? Welcome to the Medicare Cafe, where today we're talking about, like, what is the scope appointment, how to use it, what's going on, we'll be talking about it. There's a lot of charged feelings, particularly about the scope of appointment. But again, for those of you who are just joining on and missed the pre-chat, first of all, you're welcome. Second of all, my name's Olivia Richardson.
And I'm Clayton Clemens.
And Carrie is out today, but we'll be back soon to join the Medicare Cafe team once more. So, What are we talking about today, Clayton?
The scope of appointment and how to use it.
Exactly. A lot of agents are getting really frustrated that they're bringing back. Now, keep in mind, like, the scope of appointment has never not been a thing. Obviously, since I believe whenever they enacted that rule in like 2010, 2012 era, where the scope of appointment was required. The reason why it's being talked about lately is because they are bringing back, September 30th, they are bringing back the 48-hour cool down moment. The 48-hour, what they call the cool down period. So what is a scope of appointment? A scope of appointment is a CMS-approved document or a CMS-approved script. It's CMS-approved verbiage that is required for a consumer or beneficiary to give a licensed sales agent permission to talk about government-sponsored plan, looking at UC&D, gives them the permission to do so. Now, as it stands today, you sign the scope of appointment. As long as you sign the scope of appointment prior into going into Part C and Part D details, by details I mean co-payments, premiums, benefits, things like that. Before going into that information, you have to get that signed by both you and the consumer prior to the appointment starting, or prior, not even to the appointment starting, just prior to you actually discussing those benefits. Starting September 30th, they are bringing back the 48-hour cool down period, meaning that scope of appointment signature on the consumer side, on the benefit side, has to be 48 hours prior to your actual appointment.
Yeah, and something that we've talked about too is know how that you're submitting that scope of appointment. Mm-hmm. If you're doing it electronically, it's going to be stamped with the date and the time, where the paper form is just going to have the date. So do with that as you will.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that's what, like, I was on a Medicare Center meeting last week, and they're trying to talk about, like, do we go by the intention of the rule, which is basically the two days, or do we go by what the letter of the law says? And so there's still a lot when it comes to, like, the scope of appointment. There's a couple things that are still in the air currently. I met with Shaylin, or I was actually texting with my fingers, Shaylin, our compliance officer, prior to this, and just kind of saying, like, we may start seeing more of this. One of his things, he cannot confirm, but he says it's really possible we'll start seeing carriers require you submit scope of appointments again. Right now, Cigna and Silver Script, which is an Aetna PDP, and WellCare are the only companies that are requiring you to actually submit the scope of appointment with an app. We could see a lot of carriers bring that back just because the policing of the rules are falling on carrier.
Yeah, aren't they pushing that quite a bit as, like, everything is on the carrier to kind of enforce?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's always been that way. CMS is not the enforcer. They're the rule makers, and they're kind of the disciplinary side of things. But the people who are enforcing it, that's going to be the carriers.
Gotcha.
So let's talk a little bit more about the scope of appointment. Like we kind of alluded to earlier, there are 3 types of scope of appointments. Reminder that they do need to be kept on record for 10 years. Telephone scopes. This was one that I was talking to Shaylin about. I was like, let me know what's going on with telephone scopes. And the reason for that is because currently, like right now, the way that a telephonic scope works for non-call center agents, so field center agents, is that if you want to sign and have a telephone scope, you have to go through a company that provides a recorded voice signature. So like I know like Cigna had one, Humana had one, SilverScript had one, to where you call into this number and record the scope of appointment of the phone. You can take, as long as the scope of appointment is a CMS approved scope, any carrier has to take it. Yeah. But like you could, record them there. What's happening now is that what Shaylin's telling me is that they're actually coming out with a script scope of appointment, meaning that the agent would just have to read off the script. You can collect the voice signature of your client, and that would count. You wouldn't have to go through another program like that.
Nice. That'd be super helpful, because I know a lot of people have started asking about more verbal scope options.
Right.
Since everything's being recorded, it seems like. And like that's part of your process. Like, just make that one more step easy with doing a verbal scope like that.
He did want me to mention, though, as it stands today, what the verbiage says today is that the voice scope of appointments are not good for face-to-face appointments. You have to be an electronic appointment in order to use that voice SOA. So more, again, like I said, more to come on that. Are they going to open that out to everybody? What's going on with, with the field agents' use of that? Because call centers have had that capability for a long time, but not so much field agents. Listen, I don't know what this lighting is doing. My eyes look huge when I pull them down.
When you pull them down, for sure. Mine do not. Mine do look big when you do that.
I look like, I don't know.
This
I
way.
don't know. It's the ADHD. Anyway, so that's what's going on with telephonic scope. Looks like they're going to be like branching out on the telephonic scopes, which would be nice. We'll see.
Yes.
I'm
still in the eyes.
I know, like I keep seeing it. I'm like, what's going on? The electronic scope of appointment. Of course, a lot of carriers offer their own electronic scope of appointments. I do really enjoy using Medicare centers. We'll talk about why I like theirs particularly here in a little bit. But again, what you can do with most scope of appointments, including the ones on Medicare app and Medicare Center, it's text and email options. And it also will store it for you for 10 years. So kind of takes care of, like, if you're face-to-face with them, you just send them a text. They just use their little phone and do their phone thing. And if, of course, they're non-face-to-face, email works easier. That would be how I would use it, too.
Yeah, I like the electronic version because it's storing it for you automatically.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about having to paper file for 10 years.
Exactly.
Just another thing that goes to the cloud.
And then the last one being a paper SOA. Literally when I would see, when you would really see the SOA, the paper scope of appointment, is obviously like if technology is failing you. Also keep in mind though, like when we say the paper scope still has to be stored for 10 years. Basically where I'm going to see this is I think most often is where it's going to be where a scope of appointment is the 48-hour rule is going to be waived.
Yeah.
Couple situations when they're waiving the 48-hour rule. Number one is walk-ins, when somebody physically walks into your office and wants to talk about Medicare Advantage plans right then and there. It's not a preset appointment. It's a literal walk-in. Jury's still out if they're going to consider incoming phone calls walk-ins. Right now, it looks like that's going to be the case. Just be careful with leads because we'll talk about that here in a second. The second time they're going to actually say you don't need to wait the 48 hours if you are in 4 days of a person's enrollment. So, like, if they're, needing an effective date, like today. Like, today is the 30th of May. If they need an effective date June 1st, you obviously don't have to wait for the 48-hour rule because I'm in 4 days within my enrollment date.
And it's 4 days until the end of their enrollment period, correct?
Correct. So, for me, it would be like the 27th, 28th, 29th. No, 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st.
Yeah.
If you were needing a June 1st enrollment. I just wanted another example to show off how great my nails look.
Okay, they look great.
I know.
Very sparkly.
They are. I love it.
But the other thing with the paper scopes on there, make sure you're saving those, obviously, the same way. But there was a point I was trying to make.
It sounds like it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back to it.
Choo-choo. Here goes your train of thought. Listen.
The nails got me.
They get me all the time. So let's go into a little bit about like what is the silver lining with these scope appointments. I firmly believe that scope appointments are the absolute best cross-selling tool because it is the government. It's not you, the agent. It is the government saying that if you're going to be talking about Medicare Advantage or Part D, then you have to talk about these other products. You really should be talking about these other products. Now, I put 2 scope of appointments on there. I don't have Tourette's. I just have a fat lip this morning that's not allowing me to communicate. Don't look at it. Anyways, there are 2 scope of appointments on here. The one to my left, maybe the screen's right. Anyways, the one that says over there, you'll see that it lists Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement, prescription drug plans, and ancillary products. This is a huge deal, guys. This is the scope of appointment offered on Medicare Center. If you look on the other side, this scope of appointment, it says scope of appointment confirmation form. You'll notice that it specifically lists the same products, but instead of saying ancillary, it specifically lists dental, vision, hearing, and hospital indemnity. That's a huge thing to consider whenever you're looking at wanting to cross-sell. Honestly, Medicare Center, there are two of them that use kind of this vague terminology. Medicare Center says ancillary options. Aetna says additional health products. The reason why that's such a big deal, guys, it leaves you a little bit more room for cross-selling opportunity. Now, in a Medicare, anytime a scope of appointment is signed, you cannot discuss financial specific products like final expense, annuity, or any other financial product. You cannot discuss those at the same time. However, whenever they put the term ancillary product on there, it does open up the window for things like critical illness care, big one of those being cancer insurance. Up until they release the scope of appointment, I've very much been like, you cannot cross-sell cancer at a Medicare Advantage appointment because the scopes of appointments specifically state the products you can sell. With this one, and I did double check with the integrity compliance team, with that scope of appointment saying ancillary benefits, it does open up the door for products like cancer insurance.
I absolutely love that. As you guys know, I always talk about cancer insurance. Huge proponent. Everyone needs it. And this just gives you another opportunity to do it at the appointment.
Right.
Because that's been a huge hurdle, especially during AEP, is how am I going to sell this during that appointment if I can't talk about it and I have to follow up? And we all know how the follow-up process can get crazy.
Always, yeah.
Super important. However, now you have an additional option, looking at a hospital indemnity plan being a good go-to cross-selling on every single MA appointment. Where now, or used to have to only use a cancer insurance rider on that hospital indemnity plan. Now, if the hospital indemnity is not necessarily a great fit for them or just isn't something that's appealing to them, you have the option for the standalone cancer.
Yeah.
So, huge.
It is. I'm really excited about that. And again, like I mentioned, it does open the doors for you, but it really does allow you to basically, like, the best way to cross-sell during a Medicare Advantage appointment is just to say, here's a major gap in this coverage. Don't worry, I have something that we can use to offset that. And as you're going through a Medicare Advantage sale, like you're supposed to go through each benefit line by line. That's a compliant sale. And whenever there's something that fits the need of a hospital indemnity plan or a cancer insurance plan, you just say, don't worry, I have something to cover that later. And it's completely compliant to do so.
Yeah, the summary of benefits is a great another tool right alongside, because like the scope appointment says, hey, I want to talk about these things.
Exactly.
So like, cool. You don't have to kind of get over that barrier of they want to talk about this because they told you they did just by checking a little box.
Exactly.
And then with the summary of benefits on there, you can go through, like she was saying, line by line, saying, hey, this is where I can have something that can help fill in. Let's talk about that when we get to the end of this. And keep going through there. And the client's typically going to tell you what they are most worried about.
Exactly.
So like, well, you kept talking about the chemo costs.
Exactly.
What's that going to cost me? Like, great. Well, with this, we can kind of cover those aspects. So love that it's not only giving you more chances on the scope of appointment, but throughout the appointment, you can really actually fill those holes the way you need to.
Most agents, when we talk to them about, like, why aren't you cross-selling, most of the biggest response we get is, I just don't want to come across pushy. I don't want to come across salesy. I don't want to come across as, like, let me just keep pushing product on you. This is why the scope of appointment is incredible for you guys. It's because it's literally the government saying you should talk about these other benefits. There's a reason for that. Medicare Advantage leaves those areas exposed. You should be recommending something to fill those gaps if the consumer is interested in that. But it's quite literally like putting the, like, I'm not pushing these products on you. CMS and the government is recommending we talk about them. So it completely takes all of that pressure off your shoulders, and you can kind of put that blame on someone else.
Having that aspect of, well, because this is on the scope of appointment, we can talk about how that pairs well with these.
Exactly.
Because the government, CMS, is literally telling you
the
that
ones
you
with
need
the drones,
these.
the ones with the bird drones.
So glad you're on board.
I'm not on board. I'm
She's
making
on board.
fun of you.
She's
To be
on board.
very clear, it's very thinly veiled.
She's on board. I saw your bumper sticker. I put it there.
So let's talk about, again, this 48-hour rules. I will tell you the majority of meetings that I've been on, like, how do we get or how do we work with this 48-hour rule has quite literally been like, how do we get around it? And my recommendation to you, especially guys in the initial, is that, like, if you on every single scope of appointment put walk-in or call-in, you're asking for an audit.
Yeah.
You're for sure asking for an audit. So making sure that you're not trying to find ways to get around it, that you abide by the 48-hour rule as often as you can, and try to find ways to compliantly stay within those guidelines. A couple ways that we recommend doing so is, number one, remember that a scope of appointment is good for 12 months. So you can start collecting scope of appointments today for your AEP appointments. They are good for 12 months. Just remember that scope of appointment is only good for one appointment. So making sure that, like, don't try to use the same scope appointment for multiple appointments, but, like, you can go ahead and start collecting them now, which is super helpful. Also, keep in mind that while you're in that 48-hour cool time period, that doesn't mean, like, you can't talk to the client in that 48-hour time. It just means you can't discuss C or D benefits in that 48-hour turnaround time. So making sure that, like, if you want to, this is when you can collect their drug information. This is when you can collect their pharmacy information, their provider information. So you can still be working through this client and doing a lot of the work back end, to where when you are meeting with them, you've already kind of gone through all the plans and you've already kind of done your research so that you can present to them the options that you would recommend.
Yeah, and Olivia was right. I got a lot of questions recently about the 48 hours, how to get around it, what should I do? And I think the best suggestion I've heard here in the office would be every 48 hours, set yourself like Tuesday, Thursday, a couple blocks of time. So then you can say, if somebody did call you and wants to have that, well, for 48 hours from now, I have a block of time that's open time where I can have that appointment come in. Because otherwise it becomes a kind of a scheduling issue.
Right.
And that's the kind of the logistics you don't want to take over
I hate logistics.
Right?
I hate her.
I hate that word even. I hate that I used it.
Logistics.
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 Logistics. What was it? Can't remember.
Anyways.
But, basically, you want to make sure that you have that kind of wiggle room on your schedule. So no matter what, you have a 48-hour block coming up.
I love
because
that.
that's going to be something that will really be a big saver for you guys, this AEP.
Michelle asked a great question. She says, I thought we weren't supposed to talk about AEP yet. So how do you approach the scope of appointment rules? I'm glad you asked, Michelle. So back in the days, they said like you couldn't even use the word annual enrollment period. You could not talk about annual enrollment period. You could not use the initials. You couldn't even don't even look at it. Don't smell it. Don't touch it until after October 1st. The rules on that has lined up a little bit, as long as you're keeping it like educational basis and saying like AEP, these are the dates of AEP. This is what's going on. As you just can't talk about, now when it comes to AEP, you can't talk about the next year plan benefits. I spit. The next year plan benefits. Has that fat lip?
Yep.
Until after October 1st. So you can go ahead and make appointments. You can go ahead and talk about it. You can do all that stuff. You just cannot talk about, even if a client has their ANOC September 30th and says, hey, what's going on with this? Here's my ANOC. Let's go through this together. You have to say less than an appointment after October 1st. So just don't talk about plan benefits or plan details until then, but you can go ahead and let people know the dates and start setting your AEP appointments. Now, if you're really uncomfortable with it, a lot of what agents are just saying is it's time for your annual review. So we'll do your annual review. I'm going to need this information. Go ahead and take this. A big selling point for that is agents will start actually collecting drug information in those scope of appointments in late August, early September, and start saying give me your drug deets, give me your SOAs at this time. So you can go ahead and start collecting those and setting those appointments.
Right. And that would be something you could start doing with all your current clients that you have. Go ahead and start reaching out to them to do those couple things. Help set yourself up for those first little bits of AEP. Mm-hmm. And that gives you a lot wiggle room for people or prospects that come in later in the season.
Terry asked a question. Terry says, if I have a client I sold cancer to at 64 or covered California before, would that be considered a walk-in? Okay, so I don't know what covered California is. Is that the Medicaid? Anyways, or the ACA? I will say, obviously, the 48-hour rule, basically what I'm understanding the question, Terry, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, the 48-hour rule applies to both prospects and current clients. So there's a lot of things they differentiate. If you're a prospect versus a current client, you can call them about Medicare Advantage. You can specifically outreach to them about Part D. A prospect, you cannot reach out to them about Part B and Part C, or Part D and Part C. So there are some major differences of what you can do with a prospect versus what you can do with a current client. Doesn't matter what that current product is with that client. If they're a client, then they're a client. What doesn't get affected by that is the 48-hour rule. The 48-hour rule will apply to both prospects and current clients. So no one is exempt from that 48-hour rule unless they are a walk-in, potentially a call-in, or within 4 days of that enrollment.
And a walk-in is, I think, more breaking that down would be literally somebody coming into your office and walking in expecting to have an appointment. Because you want to be able to do that, and the government, it seems like they want to allow you to do that. But what they don't want is to say, somebody calls you and says, hey, can I get them in for an appointment today? Mm-hmm. And you say, yeah, I have some free time at 2. Come on in.
Literally.
That's where it starts.
If there's any nod that you were aware of that person coming in prior to them walking in, then that's not going to be okay. Then you have to wait the 48 hours.
Yeah. So allowing yourself to have some scheduled time for walk-ins, but not alluding to having people come and walk in.
And again, the purpose of this is just because a lot of people are saying that they felt pressured. They're trying to stop high pressure sales tactics that are most popular within the call centers. This is what they're trying to avoid. We'll see, what's good in practice versus what actually happens. We will see, but this is kind of where a lot of this came. It's because the number one complaints about call centers were they felt high pressured.
Yeah, a lot of it's that just giving seniors as many opportunities to back out of a sale as possible, especially at the beginning of that process. because it's a lot easier to not answer that second phone call 48 hours later.
Exactly.
Than having to be pressured into going into that and then not even understanding that they got enrolled in something or what to do now. So.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So again, guys, a couple other things with the 48-hour rule. Incoming calls are being talked about. We kind of hit on that like an incoming call, is that considered a walk-in? And the reason why I say be careful with leads is because especially with that incoming call rule, if you are purchasing leads, especially during AEP, be very conscious or cognizant or be aware. How many syllables go? Anyways, be very aware of how those leads are actually coming to you. Because what an incoming call is someone seeing a phone number, seeing your advertisement, seeing something that says, hey, call in, call this number, have questions. That's considered an incoming call. That's like, duh, Olivia, I know what an incoming call is. What an incoming call is not is if somebody is doing outbound calls to them and then you get the call transferred to you, which is a very popular lead source, which is outbound calls. You get the transfer. They try to what's it called whenever you make sure that they are right, qualified.
Yeah.
It's somebody making outbound calls, qualifying individuals, and then sending them your way. That is not an inbound lead. Though it is inbound to you, the original source of that contact was an outbound call. So just be really aware when you are getting an inbound call, know like what lead campaign you have going on right now to make sure it truly is an inbound call. If you have questions on that, Medicare Center has partnered with Lead Center and can kind of help you differentiate, making sure that you are utilizing it's not going to be called Plan Enroll. So making sure you're using like those tools.
Yeah, basically just where did the call initiate? Did it initiate from the client calling you, or did somebody call them and got it sent over to you? I'm shocked you didn't stop everything.
Nails. Thank you.
I saw that on there. It's like she's gonna just be like,
it's not just to spite you. Just like when I'm talking, just I'm not used to having pretty things. I don't know how to pretty. So like, thank you. So that again, I can't talk today. Mm-mm. My nails are beautiful, but I can't talk. You get one or the other, Clayton.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, that's fine.
That is all we have for you guys today. This is what we wanted to talk about, using the scope of appointment. I understand, guys, it's not like the most fun thing that we have to go through. It isn't, I'm not going to like sugarcoat it. It is another hurdle that we need to figure out how to overcome. However, there is a silver lining. It is the best cross-selling tool out there. It puts all the cross-selling pressure off of you, puts it on the back of that scope of appointment, and knowing that like all agents have to do it. My biggest advice, don't try to like work around the rules. Please work with the rules, and we'll all get out of this alive.
And that's something too to consider is if they check all those boxes, don't be worried about your time, because a lot of agents say, well, I don't want the appointment to go, another hour long because we're talking about more products. Make it another 5-10 minutes of your appointment and talk about the additional things that they checked on there.
Exactly.
And don't leave that appointment without talking about them. And especially make sure that they know where it fits in, so how their plan works and how it doesn't.
I'd also say, like, set the expectation, train your clients to check all the boxes. Don't just send them a scope of appointment without any explanation. Say, hey, sign this, get it. Because they're like, probably only going to check those boxes, so you want to make sure you're setting the right expectation at every appointment. At every appointment, you're setting the expectation of, yes, we're going to look at your Medicare Advantage, your MedSup, your Part D. Yes, we're going to take care, but I take care of my clients holistically. So in order for me to do so, please make sure you check all those boxes. We may not talk about them all today based on how you answer some questions, based on our risk assessment. We may not need to talk about all those today, but we need to make sure we have the option to.
And I love that aspect too. If they didn't check all the boxes, make sure in that follow-up appointment that you set during Q1, when you're going through, making sure they've got their primary care set up, or if they really like the flashy dental benefits on there and getting that set up.
Get them a grill. Perfect. You say flashy dental and you're not thinking a grill.
I wasn't, but now I am.
Could you imagine?
I'm going to get one.
When millennials make it to the nursing home, things are going to get really weird.
My grill would have a little gap in it, though.
You would be a nice little grill.
Might be cool. But anyway, make sure in that follow-up appointment you talked about the things that they didn't check if that is something that they really need. So like a hospital indemnity plan. They didn't check it. They might not know what that is. So in that first, nobody does.
No one knows what that is, but it's provocative.
It's provocative, and I like it. But make sure you're talking about those in Q1 follow-up. Make sure that they know all the ways. Same thing you do in that appointment. If they did check them, how it fits in their plan, what kind of gaps they have. Q1 follow-up. Fill it up.
any questions, comments, concerns, threats, and/or promises, you may ask them at this time. You could have asked them whenever, but now you are invited to ask them at this time, and we appreciate your commentary.
This is your time.
This is your time. You know what? Let's just, let me know. Do we need to meditate together? I can't do that. I don't have the attention span to meditate. One time I did a guided meditation, and, I thought I was going to die. I felt my heart rate, and I was like, who is she? Right? I didn't like it.
Never took that dive internally like that before?
No, it's a scary place up here.
I get
You know what? Whenever I'm not allowed to talk out my thoughts and they all just stay up there, chaos.
Not good.
Also, my son started saying every morning he wakes up, he says, it's time to spread chaos. He's 3.
It's so funny.
It's time to spread chaos. And I said, little man, you got it. Time to go to school because I'm not dealing with that.
Meanwhile, Aubrey's just like, bubbles.
Bubbles. We have 2 very different children.
She just wants bubbles.
Bubbles. Appreciate you guys for hanging out with us today. If you guys do, again, reminder that this number right here, this text line, that is my direct number. So if you are watching the recorded version of this, feel free to, there's a lead center sale. Feel free to contact me at any time. Of course, Clayton, you can just reach us by calling 1-800 number. If you are interested, you can get 30% off all Medicare ordered leads by putting in this phrase, Memorial 2023. If you want to go to Lead Center and get 30% off Medicare leads,
you know another great place to get that kind of information?
Is it the cafe page?
It's the cafe Facebook page.
You say you don't want them to see my shaky camera?
No, it's not great.
Okay. Well,
and Ben does a great job of getting those up
feedback
there all the time.
Okay, well, check
Shout out
that
Ben.
Okay, well, there goes my self-esteem.
Yep.
Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hopefully it was a short week. You enjoyed yesterday and all weekend. And until next Tuesday at 10 a.m., have fun.
Make money.
And give impeccable service. Straight up forgot what it was. Okay. Have fun.